All right, let's jump into one of the most epic stories ever told, the plagues of Egypt and the very first Passover. You know, it's a tale of disaster and deliverance that most of us think we know pretty well, but there's a lot more going on just beneath the surface.
The basics, they seem simple enough, right? A series of 10, honestly catastrophic plagues get unleashed on Egypt, all to convince this incredibly stubborn pharaoh to finally free the enslaved Israelites. It's the ultimate underdog story of liberation. But here's the thing. What if freeing Israel was just part of the picture? What if the plagues were actually designed to accomplish something much, much bigger? Okay, let's really dive into this because the original text, it reveals a way more complex and fascinating purpose. Now, securing Israel's release was definitely a goal, no doubt about it. But the biblical account in Exodus makes it super clear that it wasn't the only goal. In fact, you could even argue it wasn't the main one. There was a much larger, kind of cosmic drama unfolding here. The narrative really lays out three core objectives. First, to force Pharaoh, we're talking the most powerful man on earth at the time, to acknowledge the authority of Yahweh. Second, for God to gain glory, to demonstrate his power not just to Israel, but to the entire world. And third, to execute a direct judgment on the whole pantheon of Egyptian gods. And just listen to the emphasis in this quote, right from the text. It's not just about winning, it's about how the victory is won. The whole point was to make this unmistakable statement so that even the Egyptians would have absolutely no doubt about who was really in charge.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because it perfectly illustrates that third objective. You see, the plagues weren't random at all. Turning the Nile to blood, that was a direct shot at Hapi, the god of the Nile. The plague of total darkness, well, that was a direct challenge to Re, the mighty sun god. And when all the Egyptian livestock died, that was a clear judgment against deities like Hathor, the cow goddess. It was basically a divine smackdown, showing their gods were completely powerless.
So the big question is, how did all this happen? Were these plagues just a series of really unfortunate interconnected natural disasters, maybe triggered by a volcanic eruption like some people have suggested, or were they pure unexplainable miracles? Well, the text seems to suggest the answer is kind of both.
I love this point from Old Testament critic Norman Gottwald. He basically argues that if you try to explain away the plagues with only natural causes, you completely miss the theological heart of the story. The entire narrative is about showing the direct intervention and awesome power of God. So here's the crucial point. Even if the plagues did use natural stuff, like frogs or hailstorms, there were 5 key things that turned them into undeniable miracles. First, Moses called his shot, announcing them in advance. Second, they were way more intense than anything Egypt had ever seen. Third, they happened bam, bam, bam in rapid succession. Fourth, and this is a big one, they specifically targeted the Egyptians but left the Israelites alone. And finally, the whole stated purpose was to reveal God's power. So it wasn't just what happened, it was the timing, the intensity, and the pinpoint targeting that made them divine signs. Okay, let's tackle one of the most debated and maybe one of the toughest parts of this story, the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. This is a real theological puzzle. I mean, if God hardened Pharaoh's heart, how could Pharaoh possibly be held responsible for his choices? And this isn't some minor detail, you guys. The idea of a hardened heart shows up a staggering 19 times in just these few chapters. Sometimes it says Pharaoh hardened his own heart. Other times it just says his heart was hardened. And then 10 times it says God hardened it. So, what in the world is going on here? Theologians basically offer 2 main ways of looking at this. The first, you hear it from guys like R.C. Sproul, is that God hardens by simply withdrawing his grace. He just stops striving with Pharaoh and gives him the freedom to chase after his own evil desires, essentially giving him enough rope to hang himself. But then, John Calvin takes it a step further. He argued it wasn't just a passive withdrawal, but an active judgment where God actually delivers a person over to their own destructive path. And this quote from Calvin just perfectly sums up his view. He makes this really sharp distinction. The initial hardness of heart, that's our own sin and rebellion. But the hardening of the heart, that's a subsequent active judgment from God in response to that rebellion. It's a really challenging idea, for sure, but it's central to the story. So all of this builds and builds to the 10th and final devastating plague, the death of the firstborn. And this is where the story makes a huge pivot, shifting from judgment to this incredible act of deliverance that we now know as the Passover. The term Passover itself is actually layered with meaning. It refers to that original historical event, of course, but it also refers to the annual festival that was commanded to remember it. And it can even refer to the sacrificial lamb at the very heart of the whole ritual.
To really get the significance of this moment, the scholar J.A. Moyer breaks down the theology of the Passover into 5 essential key words, and these really unlock its profound meaning.
The first and most critical word is propitiation. The whole scene is set against a backdrop of divine judgment, but the blood of the lamb on the doorposts, it acted as a token that appeased God's wrath. So when the agent of judgment saw the blood, that judgment was satisfied, and it passed over that house. It wasn't about how good the people were inside, it was all about the power of the sacrifice.
And building on that foundation, the other key words just paint this complete picture. Propitiation leads to security. You're safe if you're sheltered by the blood. And that security is made possible through substitution, a lamb dying in place of the firstborn. This one single act accomplishes their deliverance from slavery. And finally, it marks the beginning of their pilgrimage, a brand new journey with God out of bondage and towards a new future.
Now, for later Christian theology, this entire event becomes this powerful foreshadowing. As the scholar J. Barton Payne points out, quoting the Apostle Paul, the Passover lamb is seen as a type or prefiguration of the ultimate sacrifice of Christ, who is called our Passover.
So when you peel back the layers, the story of the plagues and Passover it's so much more than a simple tale of freedom. It's this incredibly complex narrative about divine power, about judgment, and about a very specific, profound kind of redemption. And really, it leaves us with this final thought to chew on. How does this ancient story, with all its themes of justice, sacrifice, and liberation, how does it continue to echo and shape the way we understand our world, even today?